Today is the disappearance day, anniversary of, great. The word great doesn't give justice, lend justice to this Acharya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. All Acharyas are great. So it's the same, it's the feeling of separation from the great personality is expressed in the words of Sri Narottam Das Thakur. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarne. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Dayataya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premardhya Shri Rupa Noga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. Namaste Gauravarni Shri Murtiye Dinatarne Rupanoga Viruddha Pasidhanta Dvantaharne. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shrishtham Manamapi Shakti Putramatra Surupam Rupam Tasya Grajamurupuring Mathurim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yatsya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Paragamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As I just mentioned, this kirtan, Jayanilo Prema Dhana, composed by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, is standard to sing by Gauriya Vaishnavas on the anniversaries of the disappearance of any great Vaishnav, such as we are celebrating today, the disappearance of Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaga Acharya Ashtotar Sadasri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. This song, like so many of Narottam Das's songs, expresses extreme feelings of separation, a feeling of hopelessness and almost despair, because these great personalities of Narottam Das sings, they've gone and I'm here. I can't have their association. And feeling every moment to be like 12 years or more in separation from them. So this is more intense than the hellfire burning the 5th canto of Bhagavatam describes how sinful persons, they have to suffer in hellish planets. The Christian description of the hellish worlds is only burning in fire. In the Vedic descriptions there's more variety. Variety is the spice of life. There's a horrible situation, but the Vaishnava feels more intense pain in separation from great personalities than the conditioned souls do. Suffering, the suffering is more. So you may think, well, what kind of a religion is this? That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach that the highest level is the separation, feelings of separation from the beloved, but it's painful. But there's a great sweetness there also, because in separation one becomes closer. If someone, in the materialistic concept of life, someone dies, then you feel distress because they're gone and there's no chance to re-meet with them, but to reunite with them. But in the Vaishnava understanding, yes, there is the great possibility to enter into those pastimes. And because these personalities live, they don't die. We don't say, such and such a great Vaishnava died. He simply ceased to be manifest to our vision. He's present. As Srila Prabhupada wrote in the dedicatory words to his Srimad Bhagavatam translation and commentary at the outset of his taking up this magnum opus, massive work. He wrote, dedicated to my eternal spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So although there is a sense of separation, which is intense, they're not having the opportunity to be with that person directly, but in another way one is with the person more directly by remembrance and particularly by service, as Srila Prabhupada emphasized in this dedication. He lives forever in his divine instruction, and the follower lives with him. The follower lives with him by following the instruction. Srila Prabhupada at different times, once he said, I only had personal association, I only met with my guru maybe a dozen times. On another occasion he said maybe 5 times. Presumably he sat in classes more often, but actual personal meeting and interchange, exchange, very few times. But he always lived with him. As he said, that when I went to America, I didn't feel I went alone. We glorify Srila Prabhupada properly, that he went alone. But he said, I always felt my spiritual master was with me. And when one sannyasi, he sent him off to a very difficult place to preach, Taiwan. Very difficult in so many ways. Language, if you're just going there without knowing the language, and no one there. At that time, very few people knew English. The devotee who was sent was from America and only knew English. Sent alone and was experiencing difficulty being alone. And Srila Prabhupada said that for a sannyasi, he takes association of Krishna. He should feel that Krishna is with him. That's the meaning of his sannyas danda. That the Vishnu he feels the presence of Vishnu, therefore he is fearless to go in the forest alone. Who could go in the forest alone? In the previous days, the forest was very dangerous. Snakes, scorpions, bears, elephants, lions, tigers, panthers, wild boars. The merchant might go to try to find something for profit, something. The sadhus, they go to the forest. They find that the forest is better. Yataranyam tata griham. The home life he finds the home life is so disturbing that the disturbances of the forest, they're no worse. It's better to be in the forest. He finds that the materialistic society is so unbeneficial for his spiritual advancement that he goes to be alone in the forest. How can he do that with so much danger? Because he feels that Vishnu is with me, he's protecting me. So the devotees, they live with their guru, with all the gurus, all the Vaishnavas. They live with them even in their physical absence. But at the same time, there's a feeling of separation. So how is that? It's inconceivable. It's both currents are going on at once. As I just stated, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a great acharya, but the word great, it's a proper word to use, of course, but words are insufficient to describe. Every acharya is great. The acharya who has 3 or 4 disciples and properly trains them, he is non-different from Krishna. At least the disciples must see him as such, and actually to the disciples he is non-different from Krishna. Acharyang mang vijaneyan navamanyeta karhi chitna martya buddha suyeta sarvadeva maya guru. Lord Krishna stated that one should know very well that the acharya is me. Srila Prabhupada in his translation states non-different from me. That is to stress the point how the acharya is Krishna. He's non-different in the sense of being non-different. But if you see the actual Sanskrit, Krishna says, he is me. The acharya is, you should know very well, the acharya is me. That also, now we're getting on to Guru Tattva. I should actually speak on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but the Uddhava also addressed Krishna, that Krishna, you're so merciful, you appear internally as the Chaitya Guru, the Guru in the heart, and externally as the spiritual master to guide the disciple. So, every acharya is great. He's far, every Vaishnava, neophyte Vaishnava who rings the bell in the temple, who doesn't know more than this, even his position is far more exalted than any karmi, jnani or yogi. What to speak of sinful people or people outside the varnashram system. So, we can try to use words to describe the Vaishnava. Even Krishna himself, who is the object of worship for all enlightened persons, for all persons. Some accept it and some don't. But even he finds himself, even though he's unlimited in all abilities, he finds himself incapable to glorify the Vaishnavas. So, even if we are to speak objectively, and that means in a neutral way, even if some scholar of religion comes along, has no devotional motive, but if he studies Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he will find that compared to many other Vaishnava or other preachers, certainly his contributions were unique, unprecedented, and monumental. There's so much to say. It's difficult to know where to begin. We glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tvashe Namaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most munificent among all the avatars, and they're all munificent, but he is the most munificent because he gives Krishna Prema, pure love of Krishna. So the pure love of Krishna, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to give, that is the whole subject of the Vedas, the subject of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He gives the process by which conditioned souls can come to the platform of experiencing Krishna Prema. The essence of that Krishna Prema is described by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Rupa Goswami is the foremost follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the sense that it was through Rupa Goswami particularly that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifest his gift to the world and gave to Rupa Goswami the knowledge and the mercy by which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift of Krishna, giving Krishna Prema, can be perpetuated in the world. It's not just that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he gave Krishna Prema, then he left, and now there's no more opportunity. But the opportunity is still there, going by the standard parampara system. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that to Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami gave that in his teachings, in his books. So particularly, what is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give? That is pure devotional service, free from any material motivations. And Rupa Goswami defines that. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana kamadyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti ruttama. The topmost level of devotion, both in the standard, in the state of sadhana, when one is not fully realized, and in the state of siddhi, where one actually attains perfection. This description is applicable. It's the topmost approach to devotional service. It's not a mixed approach. That's the difference. It's not approaching Krishna for any material gain. So that is without any other motive. It's not mixed. No desire for jnana, karma. Simply cultivating a sense of serving Krishna in a manner that is pleasing to Krishna. This applies in the state of sadhana, and in the state of siddhi, that anushilanam it's cultivation, but not in the sense of cultivation for the sake of gaining a result. Because the result is already attained, but still one goes on practicing that to please Krishna in all respects. The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is praised as Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Hari. He is that person who removed the darkness of all the wrong philosophical conclusions that cover those given by Rupa Goswami. So Gauriya Vaishnavas, they are Rupanugas. They claim to be in the line of understanding and practice coming from Srila Rupa Goswami. Now Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is praised as the destroyer of the wrong conclusions that cover the proper understanding of Rupa Goswami's teachings. So this is his greatest glory. We can say this is his greatest glory. This book is called Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. So Vaibhava means glory. So this is his greatest glory. Of course, we can also say his greatest glory is he glorified Krishna and brought so many others to glorify Krishna. But he saw that in the matter of glorifying Krishna, it was necessary to remove the darkness of the improper conclusions that were inhibiting the proper glorification of Krishna. Sometimes it was suggested to him that if he would just stop being so heavy and so critical of others, particularly other Vaishnavas, then all the Vaishnava community would follow him. It was suggested to him, indirectly via his disciples, that if there's no need for him to criticize like this. He can just glorify Krishna. He's so imbued with spiritual energy and knowledge of Shastra to glorify Krishna that all the Vaishnavas will accept him as their leader. There's no need to criticize like this. Just be positive, as we would say in modern parlance. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur detected that it was necessary to point out that pretty much all of what was going on at that time in the name of following Rupa Goswami was actually not to the proper standard of what Rupa Goswami came to give. He analyzed that what is this anyabhilashita shunya, and how others are not on that standard, although they think themselves to be, they profess to be. So this was a great shock for all the what may be called traditional Vaishnavas. That, of course, we hear how some of them were very fallen, but many in the Goswami lines, especially those who Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur criticizes Jat Gosai, those who have, it means they're born in a family of people who are known as Goswamis. And Jat also means it is a social group. Just like you have a jati of Babas, you have a jati of potters, you have a jati of clerks, just like the Kayastas, you have a jati of warriors. So all professions there's a jati. So being a Gosai, being a Goswami, there's also one jati. But it's not like that. It is to be a Goswami means one is on a platform of spiritual fulfillment. It's not that just by being born in a family, just like there is also the there was a jati of Vaishnavas in Bengal, because, anyway, I described it in here, how the Vaishnavas, they declared themselves to be beyond the rules and regulations of the Varnashram system. So we're not part of that. So they just made another group. They became seen as another group. They're Vaishnavas. What do? They beg some money and they have sex with the female Vaishnavas, and who are also left society. They left society because they're thrown out for being adulteresses or whatever. And then so a woman is found that she's having a sexual affair with another man. She's thrown out of the home. Then she becomes a Vaishnavi. What else to do? There's no other recourse. Then she finds a Vaishnav Baba, some Babaji, and she serves him. And then they have some children, and then it becomes the Boshtam Jati. The Boshtam is what's the word? Transformation, corruption of the word Vaishnava. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I was talking about these Jati Gosais. So, as Srila Prabhupada points out in one purport, in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavatam, in this section, Shuchi Nam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Vijayate. The fallen yogi takes birth in an elevated family. So Srila Prabhupada points out that even up to the present day, there are families of acharyas. That they are by castes, if you consider in terms of caste or jati, which is more appropriate than the term caste, that they are acharya caste. So what does an acharya do? Well, he studies the Shastra, he initiates disciples, he does puja. So they were doing that. It is not that many were doing it. Maybe most of them were doing that. And it's still going on. There are still some. Just recently in Vrindavan, I went to the Radha Shamasundar temple, where the Mahant, he's in the line for the Gopi Balapur Mahantas. That's a family line coming from Rasika Ananda. And they're still going on. He still knows the Shastra, and he's organizing the temple. He personally dresses the deities every day. He's doing the work of an acharya. He told me when I went there, he said, when I went there to Gopi Balapur, he was still studying at school. Now so he went to his school, then he went and he's managing the temple. And in a devotional way. It's not just a profession. So there are still families of acharyas. So they were, that's another term that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to use. Actually, at least this started with Bhaktivinoda. Bhaktivinoda attributed this term, Jat Gosai, to one Tota Babaji, who lived in Navadip. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur used that term, and then another term they also used was Prabhu Shantan. That means Santan means child, and Prabhu means the Lord. So particularly the lines coming from Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, Nityananda Vangsha, Advaita Vangsha, those they are called Prabhu Santan, and they're different from the others, just like Gadadha Pariva, Narottam Pariva, and so on. They're also family line gurus. So that term was used often in Gauriya Math publications in a derogatory way, whereas previously, or up to that time, Prabhu Santan, great person, direct descendant of the Lord. And yeah, many of them, they're writing books, very learned, very expert in kirtan. They seem to be proper Vaishnavas in all respects. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he pointed out that to actually give what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, the attitude of anyabhilashita shunya must be there. He detected that in their activities there was lacking this spirit of full dedication to Krishna only for his sake. And he did qualify that. He didn't say that, well, all of them are wrong, or all of them are bad. He wasn't against the gurus in the family lines initiating, but his point was they shouldn't do it in a business attitude or family maintenance attitude. That they will speak, I was saying many of them are learned, writing books, and a common thing they did also was speaking. They performed their religious function in society, among the society of Gauriya Vaishnavas. When I said the Vaishnavas, they one jati, but it's complex, because the Vaishnava Boshtam jati is, but there are also many Vaishnavas who were living in society, and they were not Boshtam, but they were whatever they were. They were many of the Shuvarna Vanik in Bengal, that caste, that means the gold merchants. Literally means gold merchant. Suvarna Vanik. So for some reason or other, which I don't know, someone could research it if they want, even though they're wealthy, dealing in gold, but somehow they're considered very low. I believe, does Prabhupada explain it somewhere? King Maharaj Balal saying at some point he had a great debt to them, and then he wanted them to just write it off, and they wouldn't, and therefore he condemned them to be Shudras, and like this. So they're considered to be very low. Nityananda Prabhu uplifted them, and up to the present day, he made them Vaishnavas, and up to the present day, we'll find that community in Bengal, the gold merchants, they are Vaishnavas under the Nityananda Vangsha. They get initiated in that line. I don't know if it's still going on, but it was up until at least 30 years ago. It must be going on in some way or other. So, and someone, there are different castes in society. There'd be the grocer has a little shop. He may be a Vaishnava. Or the potter, many fishermen, many from the fishing caste, they were Vaishnavas, weavers, those who hadn't been converted to Islam, mostly in Bengal, the weavers got converted to Islam, but they were mostly Vaishnavas. That's why you'll find in Swarupganj, just opposite to Mayapur, they're all weavers, they're, because they came from East Bengal and they settled there. They wanted to be in Navadip Dham, so they settled there, and you'll find they're doing that. Not with the handloom. So up to the present day, that caste, so they consider themselves Vaishnavas. So they all had someone was a weaver, someone was a fisherman, someone was a merchant, and then there was a caste of Goswamis who would fulfill their religious needs, as has been going on in India since time immemorial, not only in Bengal, but the priests, the Brahmins, they fulfill the religious needs of everyone. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he detected that in many cases it had become ritualistic, formalized. The spirit of service to Krishna wasn't there to the degree that he stated that it should be. If they're really, it's just that, just like for instance, some Goswami has 3 sons or whatever, and then they share the disciples among them after the father passes away. In the family line, Kula Guru, one man is initiated by Guru, and it's understood that his sons will also be initiated by the same Guru, or if the Guru passes away in the meantime, then they'll be initiated by the sons of that Guru, and it goes on generation by generation. So it has the possibility of degenerating into some kind of formality, that those who are giving the religious guidance, initiation, it becomes a formality. And I observed this myself, that in Bengal, that the family gurus, they would come around once a year to different people's places. They'd give blessings. You have to give dakshina to the guru, and maybe they'd speak a little bit something from Shastra, but not very urgent that we have to give Krishna consciousness, how they'll raise up their disciples. They're not much concerned with whether their disciples are following very strictly or not, because they're afraid that if they say anything to the disciple, then the disciple won't want to follow them anymore. Why should I be a guru? There are so many other gurus. There's Aul Baul, Karta Bhaja. Karta Bhaja at that time was, at the time Bhaktivinoda Thakur was you can go and join some other sect. The Vaishnava, there were so many movements which came up many Vaishnavas left. Many who are traditional followers of Vaishnavism, they saw the corruption of these gurus. They're just taking our money and they don't give us anything spiritual in exchange. So they went off to become Karta Bhajas, which they think at least the gurus there, they interact with the disciple. They have something to give them. They're concerned about them. They're not just religious tax collector, and he keeps it all for himself. So it was a widespread and noticeable phenomenon at that time that Vaishnavism in Bengal was largely corrupted by materialism. And of course at different levels. Some gurus may be more corrupt than others. But on the whole, the spirit of pure devotion, and particularly the spirit of preaching and bringing Krishna consciousness to others, beyond the already established Vaishnava group, that wasn't there at all. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he protested against this. Please chant Hare Krishna for a few minutes, and I'll come back in a few minutes.